The removal of fuel subsidy in 2023 has triggered a profound shift with far-reaching implications across the economic, social, and environmental spheres. While the reallocation of resources from subsidies to vital sectors like the healthcare, the transport, and education holds positive transformative potentials, ensuring effective utilization and equitable distribution of these funds warrants meticulous considerations. The Nigerian gross domestic product grew by 2.51% year-on-year in real terms in the second quarter of 2023. This growth rate is lower than the 3.54% recorded in the second quarter of 2022 and may be attributed to the challenging economic conditions being experienced. The performance of the GDP in the second quarter of 2023 was driven mainly by the services sector, which recorded a growth of 4.42% and contributed about 58.42% to the aggregated GDP. Nigeria's dominant oil sector, which also accounts for the bulk of the government's revenue and 90% of foreign exchange reserves, contracted 0.85% in the third quarter, a rise of 12.6% from the second quarter when the sector shrank by 13.43%. President Tinubu in May scrapped a costly but popular petrol subsidy and lifted currency controls, which he said was to save the country from going under. But the subsidy removal has worsened the inflation currently in double digits, fueling anger and frustration for a population grappling with a cost of living crisis. Now, we will be talking about all of this, and how far Nigerian economy have grown or fallen. We'll get to dissect this. Now, joining us via Zoom to discuss on this issue is Yushau Aliyu. He is an economic analyst and to review, of course, the Nigerian economy so far. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Yushau.
Thank you, and compliment of the season.
For joining us on the program.
Compliment of the season.
Yes, indeed, compliments. So, on economic terms, one would say that, well, the economy grew, and on paper, of course, it grew because if we look at data that I have here and the data that Sumi, of course, read out, we saw in the first half of the year 2.4% growth. But then again, there were, of course, some policy challenges which had, of course, impacts on the economy, some of which is the Naira redesign policy and, of course, the removal of the fuel subsidy. Now, let's start with the Naira redesign policy, which started like from towards the end of 2022 and leading to a reduction in the growth of sectors like agriculture that saw a 0.3% growth instead of the around 2.2% growth it saw in the first half of the year 2022. So I want to get your perspectives of how we got this so wrong, especially when you consider that the Naira redesign policy wasn't really a bad policy and its intention wasn't a negative one when the government introduced it to Nigerians.
Actually, the real situation on ground is lack of collective effort in arriving at an economic situation that is friendly to all. Remember in 2000, when former President Buhari presented an appropriation, the Appropriation Act of that year was targeted for collective prosperity. And that collective prosperity is what has not been achieved for a very long period of time because most of the gross rates that you have seen recorded in service sector, this cannot translate to general populace based on many reasons. If you check, for instance, insecurity, which has also allowed a lot of farmers to leave their farmland, not only to leave their farmland, but to also be attracted in the poverty club. These are some of the issues that has compounded our development process and has also stopped us from having a collective prosperity where if the upper class are enjoying from the proceeds of their investment in such service sector, those in the rural economy cannot have the same because they are out of production line not only out of production line, even the cost of living as a result of double-digit inflation that is up to 28.20% has eroded most of the income. And even when you check the Human Capital Development Index as stipulated by the United Nations and the World Bank, you realize that there has been a lot of challenge, a lot of obstacle, and we are not even heading to the right direction. If you remember vividly, now the former central bank is at the mercy of the law because it has been disproved that there are a lot of corrupt practices that took place in the banking arrangement, and that has been our argument for a very long time. You are trying to check money supply, and you are taking most of the monies that has been accrued by the economy to other economies, and not only taking all the accruals of the proceed of the economy to other economies. You are not even giving the proper direction for the economy, because in terms of money supply, you check money supply M1, you check money supply M2, you check M3, but all of this you are trying to apply the orthodox, that is the conventional tools, in trying to adjust market structure that is not guided by such kind of orthodox values or orthodox macroeconomic ingredient that is required.
All right, Yushao, let's talk about, one of the things that happened within this period where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu resumed his office. One of the things he called out was food. He placed a state of emergency on food security, which is something that has gotten worse, from the moment that he placed that. How would you say that the government has put efforts in order to make sure that these things doesn't get out of hand? I mean, and we are even coming to see World Bank pointing out, calling out states rather in Nigeria that will also face more hardship, economic hardship in 2024.
So remember, this is harvesting period, and if it is harvesting period, it is expected that food production supposed to be low. Not only, food prices supposed to have go down. That is one. Second, we are expecting to have enough supply in our market, but unfortunately, based on the concept of supply bottlenecks, all the market as such are empty. I am right now in Zaria City, and I have tried to cross-check some of this market, and I have realized that there are a lot of middlemen that are taking out the production and then locking them in their stores. So if you have a scenario of this nature and it is not checked by government, definitely the food prices will continue to go up. That is why even the report of the National Bureau of Statistics revealed that the high inflation is resulted in food items, and that is not good for any economy that has a very large population, the economy that is experiencing a hyperinflation, the economy that is experiencing high unemployment rate, the economy that is facing so much economic disturbances. You cannot have good food security if you don't have good food supplies. The supplies bottlenecks. First of all, what is the required metric of tons that is required for maize for the population of 200 million people? What is the metric ton requirement of rice for a population that is above 200? These are some of the things that you consider in food security, because if you don't consider the population size, the structure of the population, the demographic structure of the population, the consumption pattern of those individuals, you cannot achieve any food security. Because even if you make the supplies, now you check the income, that is the income grouping of those particular consumers. Can their income afford what to consume? These are some of the basic challenges that is not giving food to the tables of many Nigerians. And unless government provided an avenue where you have enough food supply and at the right prices, concomitant with the income of prospective consumers, you will continue to experience food out of tables of many Nigerians.
All right, so quite a plethora of challenges currently faced, a lot of issues. But one thing that the administration of today has said time and time again is that they are not unaware of the situation. This is probably the reason why we've seen the president in the last couple of months travel from country to country, attending one summit to another to see how we can woo, investors. But the question, is this enough? Well, we might not know that, but then again, in September, the Financial Times Stock Exchange groups known as Russell declassified Nigeria to unclassified for a myriad of reasons. One of them is the forex issue, of course, and the issue of liquidity. Now, with the drive of the current administration and with this current downgrading of Nigeria to unclassified, do you see this affecting the potential of Nigeria getting foreign direct investments from our partners from outside the country, which would in one way or the other impact our, of course, exchange rates and some of these issues that are supposed to address these challenges and these issues that you mentioned?
It is a negative report against Nigeria, and all investors are very interested in knowing the financial situation, the financial stability of any system. Even the central bank, is aware that there is no financial stability as far as forex is concerned. And also there has been many agitation from different quarters to try and establish a proper record of accruals of government, not only accruals of government, but proper record of what is required in Nigerian economy. I think one fundamental thing that is very important is a situation where we expect the central bank to come up with better policy options, not only better policy options, but with an orientation program, not to Nigerian poor people, but to Nigerian politicians who are busy scrambling to have dollars, not for transaction purposes, but for other obvious reasons. And I think also our monetary policy committee, if it is meeting, I am expecting the monetary policy to begin to review the MPR. This MPR is I think the MPR structure where individual investors are encouraged to invest has to be looked into, because primarily our investment strategy has to do with diversified economy, and this diversified economy must include agriculture. Most of the effort Mr. President is making is investment in banking sector, investment in oil and gas, not investment in agriculture. And even if we are to invest in agriculture, the federal government must have to establish right pricing policies of agri inputs. These agri inputs are very necessary. Even without foreign direct investment, we can expand our production, we can achieve our production target, and at the same time, we can stabilize prices of most of the agri output, which are very cogent for our national development.
You have quite a lot to say, to the federal government. So let's assume that this current administration is one that listens. We have foreign companies here in Nigeria who are struggling and really struggling to repatriate their funds, back to their countries. Of course, there's the issue of the food crisis, there's the issue of the inflation, there's the issue of the exchange rates, which is quite volatile. What would be your advice to this administration in the short, medium, and long term to address all of this issue, or at least a significant portion of these issues?
The first advice I will give this government is to try and make sure that PMS is produced. Our requirement for PMS is being attained in this local economy. This will allow our forex influx to be retained for other purposes at the exchange market. That is one. Second, I will advise the government also to make sure that they put the right strategy to maintain our agricultural farmlands where to be accessible. Unless if we cannot access our farmland, we cannot meet up with the required metric ton that can keep our economy. And lastly, I will also advise the central bank to check inflation. By checking inflation is to stabilize, to stop inflation from going up. If we cannot stop inflation, we can use measures, and these measures are known to them. Unless when we put right measures in our monetary and fiscal policies to make our prices stable, we will continue to face a lot of challenges that will result to vicious cycle of poverty.
Michelle, let's talk about insecurity. I mean, if there is one major thing that we have seen affect our economy, from the ending of 2022 to this period, which is the ending of 2023, is the insecurity, and it has affected every sector of the economy. So what would you say has gotten us to this point? I mean, there is a lot of mistakes from the military. There's a lot of oversight from the federal and the state government on the things that are happening. There's a lot of stakeholders coming out to say the federal government are not listening to their own advice, as experts on this situation. So how would you say we got here? From it being just a minor something that started in just one state to becoming something nationwide, where someone cannot even leave from his home to another place or from one city to another city without being kidnapped, killed, or even have his own property stolen, farmland destroyed. How did we get here?
We get here because we are divided as people. We are divided as people because if you check the geographical location of Nigeria, the agitation that is prevailing in the economy, that is the first thing. Lack of patriotism, that is the second. And then we are becoming more sophisticated and as corrupt individuals. We are becoming so sophisticated. What it means for local government is not given to them. We have a structure. We have revenue mobilization, allocation, and fiscal commission to allocate resources that is due for development purposes. But at the same time, we watch how extremely state governors hijack everything. These are some of the things that we got it wrong. No matter how corrupt individuals are, we use law to correct them. If we are not using law to correct corrupt politicians and likewise, we will continue to face these disturbances. However, at the end, we are also becoming very, very sentimental in nature in the whole aspect. Look at the killings in Jos. What brought about killing of individuals in hundreds? For what purpose? These are some of the things. And it is high time for our policymakers to come with a sincere approach in tackling insecurity. Bandits are protected. And they are killing individuals. I appreciate the effort of the governor of Katsina State by becoming to be outspoken. These are some of the things that we require from our political heads to come with the right approach to make sure that all enemies of progress are defeated, whether locally or internationally. If we can do that, we also have to build confidence. We are not building confidence any longer. You see, the people that are not qualified for jobs that is required to maintain efficiency in system are not given opportunity. You see those who are grossly incapacitated being multiplied with several responsibilities without any result. These are some of the things that have eating all of us as people. We will take, for instance, you take some African state. Rwanda is a good case study. They have similar problem, even bigger than what we are. But when they realize that it is time to build, Paul Kagame has come up with different options. And today, an agricultural local farmer is enjoying being a farmer, and he has been assisted. So these are the things I think all of us as people, we come. I always mention W.W. Rostow, who is a developmental economist, always try to emphasize that we can only achieve our growth target if we change our attitude. If attitude refuses to change, there is no way. If attitude did not change, we change the process at which we are making production, we cannot expand our production level, and we cannot succeed as people. Finally, even the media have to be communicating with the right channels, with the right information. Right channels and information. If there are any upheaval that is derailing us as people, the media should hammer it to the core so that the entire citizens can understand. We allow social media to be influencing many things that are wrong in our system, and that social media is also contributing in deteriorating our own philosophy as people.
All right, Ishao, do you think this is a helpless situation for Nigerians conclusively? Because the way I look at it, it's seeming like we have the exchange rate issues, the crisis in the economy attacking from the front, we have insecurity attacking from behind, and say corruption being at the center of it all. So what hopes are there for the common Nigerian who is struggling daily to make ends meet and to get a daily bread?
No, you see, in Daybreak, Day Trust, I am happy that there is a statement that, look, we as people must build in capacity within us. If we are to build capacity, we can achieve anything. Nigerians are resilient people. The only thing they require is a direction. If you can give youth direction,
Nigerians are resilient people. Sumi,
yes,
okay,
our politicians need to understand that the challenge that is ahead of us can be contained with right policies, with right individuals, with right investments.
Ishao Ali, thank you so much for your contributions on the program this morning, and thank you especially for speaking so passionately about the issues. We really appreciate that and hope that you join us once more, probably next year, to do a review of 2023 to see if really, we made some progress or not. Thank you so much, Ishao.
Thank you very much, and good morning and Happy New Year in advance.
Thank you so much to you too. And to our viewers, well, this is the much we can take right now.
I mean, there is a lot.
But then again, there's so much.
There
indeed.
is so much,
one thing that caught my attention, especially during this segment of the program, is the fact that he mentioned what we spoke about earlier, which is Nigerians being a resilient people. But how resilient do you have to be before you realize that?
Before you take it.
You have to do something to change your situation. Now, this by no means standing up against the government or rising up against the government in civil disobedience. But what this means is taking actions to ensure that your life changes. And that's why Ishao was saying that you need to generate and develop capacity, because that's the only way you're going to get a direction. And
and let's not forget, he also made mention of holding people accountable and pushing to make sure that the state government also remits the money, give the money to the local government in order for them to make things work. Because I remember, I think on Tuesday, we had this discussion about how people celebrated Christmas without their salaries. And you mentioned in a state where some people even got percentage of the money. So things like this are happening whereby nobody would reach out and say, oh, it's the local chairman. Instead, they point on the governor to say, this is it. There are a lot of people that we don't look up. We don't check them. We don't ask questions. And these people also hold a huge responsibility in making sure the economy grows. So we need to go back down and start asking for every chain in order to make
demand
sure that demand accountability. If you're holding this money and it's not supposed to be with you, you give to this person so that the people of that state or local government would benefit from it.
There's something my mom always says. She would say, don't wait for the government to come and save you. Well, it's not to doubt whether the government will save you or not, but always be prepared and ensure that you have a plan. Because
it's always good to have a plan. And funny enough, Esagir, it's a point now that Nigerians, majority of youths now are trying to, be self-employed. A lot of them are into businesses these days. So you can't even say that Nigerians are lazy at this point. They are doing the most. It's left for the government now to do their own part. It's left for the people in charge of these sectors to do their own part.
And this is where the challenge is, Sumi, because I give an example. Say someone who does business that relies on Forex and the exchange rate would buy the dollars at a particular rate, get equipment or whatever it is. If he's a businessman, he buys his commodities and his goods, he sells them, he makes his money. If he's not well, he makes some reasonable amount of profit, and then he goes back to get more dollars, and he realizes that the dollar is now, has increased by say 20 or 25%, swallowing his profit and him not even having enough money to buy the same amount of products that he bought previously, which even, in one way or the other, affects the business negatively. So that again,
is true.
You have on one hand where we say Nigerians should have a plan, and on the other hand where they have
the
a plan,
economy is
and
affecting
then
that
exactly,
plan.
and then we keep having issues unexpectedly coming, to take over those plans.
Let's not even forget the global, economy, the trends that also affects our own country. I mean, we saw how the Russia-Ukraine war, which is still ongoing.
The Russia-Ukraine war, there's the war in Sudan. There's also currently the
food stuff that we normally get from outside, it's more expensive these days. So a lot of things is happening, and I've seen the business people coming out to be like talking about the exchange rate. It's going to affect them based on the forward, looking at 2024. They're already expecting it to be way high, which would impact negatively on businesses.
I especially appreciated Ishao for mentioning the need to stabilize the exchange rate more than anything else, because it's upon this that you can build the foundation for any form of foreign direct investment and any form of profits that we're going to get from outside, let alone inside. But then again, that's the most we can take on this band. We will go on a short break. We'll reconvene at the top of the hour, of course, for more on Daybreak. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV, and of course this is the newspaper review segment of the program. I have a copy of the Daily Trust as always with me. Let's start with the lead story. Bandits give 7-day ultimatum on abducted Zamfara varsity students, threatening to kill 3 girls if colleagues not released. Negotiate to save our daughters, parents tell federal government. That story is on page 4. Atop the page, we see we'll maintain 3,500 naira cement price January 2024. That's according to the BUA Group. Also, 2023, despite diversification move, non-oil experts still lag behind. Plateau killings, survivors narrate ordeal as 148 confirmed dead in Bokos. Our story is on page 3. Quite an unfortunate situation there. We see other stories on the Daily Trust. Ondo, more Akeredolu's appointees resign hours after Aiyedatiwa takes over office. That story is on page 11, and it's coming, of course, on the heels of the swearing in of the former deputy governor, now governor of the state, Lucky Aiyedatiwa. Also, we see Borno government seeks justice for driver killed by soldier over bribe. That story is on page 7. Court extends interim order against INEC, PDP over 27 defected lawmakers. We see the picture out there. Police in action as supporters run into the opposition leader Martin Fayulu's party house during a demonstration in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo yesterday. This is, of course, happenings in Congo. Finally, we see on the Daily Trust, Media Trust Group reorganizes for accelerated growth. Shekarau now acting GCEO/editor-in-chief print. Naziru Mikalu is GED editor-in-chief digital. And Miriam Bello is now acting company secretary and legal advisor. That story is on page 5. These are some of the stories on the front pages of the Daily Trust this morning. Front page on the front page.
Let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Below the headmaster, it says, Akeredolu, 4 aides resign. Aiyedatiwa marking day declares a 3-day mourning. Dere signs 489.4 billion naira 2024 Bayelsa budget into law. Addressing Nigeria's food security challenges, the Kano and ISDB LLF example. The lead story says police on trafficking, how syndicate steals children in Kano, Bauchi, and sells in Anambra and Lagos State. Victims go for between 400,000 naira and 500,000 naira. Assimilated into new culture, forgets own languages. You'll find this on page 6. Below we have CAF Award. Tinubu First Lady hosts the Super Falcons star Oshola. Red Cross disburses 45.7 million naira to 1,500 Kogi victims of 2022 flood. Edo Cold War casualties hit 16. NCPC boss Pam visits Arabi, seeks synergy with the NACON. And below the front page there, it says Wike Fubara feud. 26 Rivers lawmakers' seats remain vacant and PDP insists. And court extends the interim order against INEC and party. Now, these are some of the stories on the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
And for the Guardian newspaper, Man of the Year, George Weah and Majesty of Democracy. That's the lead story for the Guardian newspaper. We see also Plateau killings. US, France seek arrest of perpetrators as death toll hits 200. Our story is on page 6. Also, fresh worries as 20 electricity plants face hurdles. We also see more resignations loom as Aiyedatiwa takes charge in Ondo. And on the belt, court extends interim order against INEC, PDP over defected Rivers lawmakers. That series on page 7. And that's it for the Guardian newspaper today.
At the top of the front page of the Punch newspaper, it says 5 Akeredolu's men quit Aiyedatiwa's cabinet. Governor shops for deputy. We have the federal government can generate 10 trillion naira from non-oil assets. That's the tax panel chair saying. The combat security, federal government tells 47 new generals that they need to combat insecurity. Indeed. The major story is says Plateau massacre, invaders right community and threaten fresh attacks. UN demands probe. Attack notice sent to community. Soldiers got about 37 distress calls during Saturday's attack. That's according to the M Foreign Chieftain. Police treat intelligence reports on impending attacks, and UN human rights chief seeks end to killings and impunity. Tinubu hails Oshola, says Nigerian women resilient and shining globally. Constabulary tarnishing police image needs separate uniform. That's according to Arashe. 37 jailed for internet fraud in Ogun and Oyo. Revive the moribund farm settlements. Affair Babalola tells Tinubu. Now, these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
And to wrap up with the Business Day newspaper, ride-hailing loses appeal as rising costs bite. Drivers, passengers wail about economic woes. This story is on page, I think page 4. And continue page 28 rather of the Business Day newspaper. We see winners and losers from Naira devaluation. Also, Petrobras re-enters Africa 3 years after $1.5 billion Nigeria exit. Also, the highs and lows of Nigerian sports in 2023. Finally, Kora holds book reading for Pelewura today. Our story is on page 6. Well, this the stories on the front page of the Business Day newspaper. And to serve with us in the studio to share perspectives on some of these headlines we've read out to you, we have Madam Nuruddin Abdullah, the editor of the 21st Century Chronicle, with me in the studio. Hopefully you would also share perspectives as well as share palliatives with us. But then again, Madam Nuruddin, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Madam. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. So, obviously, the lead story on the Daily Trust, bandits give 7 days ultimatum on abducted students. What do you make of this? Because I read part of the story and I saw somewhere where they said the leadership of the bandits had changed, and this is looking like a new government and a new standpoint with a new body language. What's the hope for these parents of regaining their children back or regaining the freedom of their children?
I think if you remember the Boko Haram carnage, if you contextualize this with what we observed and reported in the past, you see that apparently the bandits are losing ground. You understand? The bandits are losing ground, apparently, fundamentally, because these are threats. One of their notorious leader, Ali Kachala, was taken out for good, and other vicious commanders, particularly in the last couple of days, maybe in the last 2 weeks, at different points, were neutralized, to use the military. My understanding of the situation is this: the security forces, and they are all branches. I'm talking about the intelligence arm, the real guys on the ground, the reconnaissance, the air reconnaissance. What if you need to push more? Hopefully, we are going to end this menace, just like Boko Haram was
depleted.
You understand it too. So I think these are some of the, maybe you say the last kicks of a dying horse. You understand? I read the story, and particularly the excerpt from the WhatsApp audio clips. They are veiled threats. You understand? And they are talking to an informant. My understanding is this: they want negotiation. They want their members to be released. They want the brother of Ali Kachala. So they have human feelings as well.
They want to
you can see the irony here. They murder, they massacre. You understand? They maim, they kill, they destroy. And now they are even concerned about a brother of one of their leaders. I think maybe it's simple. The security forces, they know what to do. They have their experts that analyze the situations for them. So I think the security forces need to push harder. What they have started in the last couple of weeks, they should deepen that something by the end of the day. Where is Baleri in Kaduna? You remember that chap, that idiot, that was touting people on social media? What of you? We no longer hear from him. So I think that's what the security people should do.
So, Nuruddin, while we record this as a win, sort of, there's also the lead story on the Punch newspaper, if the technical crew will be so kind to pull that up, which states, Plateau massacre, invaders right community, threatens fresh attacks, UN demands probe. However, the first rider on this story is what caught my attention, and it says, attack notice sent, attack notice sent to community. Soldiers got 37 distress call during Saturday's attack. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think I read a story somewhere. Was it this morning? I think this morning, that one of the guys at the defense headquarters explained why they could not respond to the distress calls. He was citing the topography of the Bari Kiladi, the Boko's area as one of the reasons. So, the issue on the plateau, in the past has subsided to the guns were silent for a very long time. But unfortunately now, so I don't know whether this is political or not, you understand. But what it means is this: the security need to be up and doing. They shouldn't be caught off guard like what we're talking about. Almost 150 is souls perishing. Does it have an communal? It more has communal. So I think particularly the NSA, who has been involved particularly in most of these issues, they maybe need to refocus on the plateau now. Mostly it's a communal thing. One thing leads to the other, you understand? The other time, what we analyze here, a local, a community leader, it maybe Hada, was murdered. And some more maybe arrests were made. So I think maybe they need to deepen this and engage the communities. I engage the communities.
We've seen the engagement. Last time we saw Major Christopher Musa, going there, right? We saw them, and there was bringing of all these leaders of these tribes and groups, and they sat down, and it sounded as though it was a peace accord. Everybody was saying, I don't have an issue, I don't have an issue. And then afterwards, this kind of thing happened. So could it be that, you know, these community leaders are not really speaking out their mind on this particular things happening?
Another aspect to this may be there are some infiltrators. Let me start an instance. On your way to Jos, there is in Sanga local government, I'm going to, in the last couple of months, you know, there's some pockets of kidnapping in the town, you understand? And you know, when you say kidnapping, you say, okay, a particular ethnic group is fingered. But what happened not long, I think maybe about 2 weeks ago, was you are expecting, like in Hausa we say, you are expecting fire in Makera, then you saw it in a textile. So I think maybe the security need to widen their horizon. Some of the a retired teacher was arrested whose son works in Abuja with one of the generals. I think maybe that was the attraction. You know, his son, he's a military man, works with one of the generals, service chiefs here in Abuja. You know, he was kidnapped. A week later, you know, Konaisan started calling out a few. 7.3 million was delivered to them. He and his wife were released. These chaps were arrested while sharing the money. Lo and behold, the normal culprit, you know, we are not even the one. Do you know who arrested them? The particular Fulani group, you know, because they had been this stereotype that it is Fulani, so they formed their own anti-kidnapping.
Their own vanguard.
Well, vanguard, you understand? They arrested this guy sharing the booty. One of them, he doesn't belong to that tribe. He's a medical personnel who has a medical facility treating these bandits right in the bush. Armed was recovered from his room, and large sum of money was recovered, and the others. And what happened was that majority of even the Fulani that were arrested with them, we are from the Zamfara Katsina axis. We are not even from that area. So, you know, the security agencies, the intelligence agencies, the police, they need to deepen their intelligence.
I don't know,
so that things like this should not.
Generally, doesn't this worry you that it's now seeming like persons who, for one reason or the other, would decide to leave whatever it is they were doing and just decide to form a group, and then they start abducting and kidnapping people? It's seeming like this is becoming a viable business. Unfortunately, because Nigerians are seeing or have this opinion that the security agencies are not doing so much to address the issues, and this is probably the reason why more people are seeing it as a viable venture to get into.
Apparently, before this incident, a constabulary officer, you mentioned Arase.
Yes, indeed.
Was arrested.
I'm coming to the issue of the constabulary officers because, but then again, let's respond to this one first.
You understand? So, it's the truth. In the cities, you see, unfortunately, you know, for, I don't know, for so many reasons, young men now want very cheap money.
Easy money.
They want to have iPhone, you know, all the latest cars. You want to wear the person. Whereas, what are you doing? Oh, you are just a graduate, you have started something. So there is no doubt, what do they call it? You need to labor before.
So they want to get rich quick.
In Katsina, you remember, the then Governor Masari's in-law was kidnapped. Do you know who was the informant? A young man who was her neighbor. And do you know how he was busted? He quickly bought a car, he bought an iPhone, and what have you, and he was doing nothing. That was the trigger. They collected, they say, about 40 million, and he was given all this, is it 4 or 5 million?
Malam Nuruddin, this thing that is happening now, yeah, I mean, they're saying that there is a rumored of or threats of fresh attack in Plateau State. We saw how this thing started from Saturday to the eve of Christmas, to Christmas Day, and even the day after, when numbers of people they were being killed and their houses were being burnt. And the military are saying that even with that number of calls, with the number of days, they still found it difficult to reach out to these people. Right now, these people are now feeling, yes, we have done it before, we can do it again. What is your take on the excuse that the military gave on this situation?
I think, okay, like I said, the DSQ spokes gave their own reasons. Okay, now they were informed in advance. They have to devise way of reaching these places. That is one. They have to devise ways of reaching out to these places. And again, I say community engagement is key. We saw what happened in Borno, for instance, the JTF. Maybe in urban areas now, neighborhoods from their own vigilante, because the police is underfunded. Their numbers is not anything to write them about. For instance,
well, you see, when we talk about vigilantes, you see, they are very, very limited in terms of the activities that they can carry out, because number one, the only persons who have the right to bear arms is the government through the security agencies, right? So they can't bear arms, which means that when they meet sophisticated bandit operatives like we're talking about now, these non-state actors, they might literally be sitting ducks, except if, of course, they work like you talked about the MNJTF, who which comprises of all of the security agencies and even quite more. So when we talk about these issues, now this now brings me to the issue of the constabulary officers, because we know we've started getting complaints that some of these constabulary officers have ended up being, in some cases, spies to even the non-state actors. So is just forming a vanguard of some sort a solution to it, or do we need to go back to the original plan of state police rather than these constabulary officers that were brought in to replace that agitation?
The issue of state police, our politicians, as it is now, some state governors are controlling the state police to harass, malign, detain the opponents. That is one. I don't think the state police is the problem. The federal police, how many are they? Barely 300,000. Policing 220 million Nigerians. Grossly inadequate. Why can't you employ? Why can't you hire? There was a policy that every year you hire 10,000. And you are majority of the people that will do the policing are not there. I listened to one retired AIG. He said that most of the people that do the work, not the officers, that wear their well-starched uniform or whatever, the people that do the thing are not there.
Soldiers.
You understand? So you need to recruit more. That is one. And the constabulary aspect, most states, if in the Northwest, for instance, even yesterday, Sokoto has set up its own community guards. Zamfara has done so. Katsina's own is moving. If you go to Kano, maybe their police, they have what they call the anti-daba. The advantage of having the vigilante, I know it is not all manner of caliber of weapons that they don't bear. They bear this locally manufactured weapon. In Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, the bandit fear the vigilante and more than the police. Even in Borno, rightly or wrongly, believable or not, reasons, they said that they have all this manner of charms and whatever. The Boko Haram, like they said, they fear even the JTF in Borno more than the military. Maybe the military, they have rule of engagement.
Of course.
The same thing with the police. Even the weapons the NSAK used in Sokoto, Katsina, Zamfara, it's deadlier than the one used by the conventional security force. Governments at all levels must devise ways of addressing this. Community policing is key. You understand? But saying this state police will be grossly abused.
Commitment is questionable, isn't it?
Yes. The constabulary thing. The first time I saw them was in Kaduna, along the Tudun Wadapanteka axis. I asked them, Is police that bad? The uniform, you see, it touts, use that word. The way then the other guy overheard me said, no, they are constabulary. And do you know what they do? 101 extortion in broad daylight. Nothing concerns them. You see that if they, from those extortion, that's how they pay themselves. Not far away from the Kaduna Metro. It's a good idea, but it needs to be refined. You understand? It needs to be refined. Look at the crisis going on in Kano now. The Endaba thing. So there are certain things, you know, when you get some of the repentant Endaba, you know, you use them to address these issues. And that's why even on the plateau, the local population must be engaged. And all parties need to be brought together. It was done in the past, and there was some sanity for some years, particularly post-Jan era. But now, unfortunately, the thing is coming. So we have to find out what exactly is the problem.
So there's issue of finding out what the problem is, and of course, they are generally good ideas because we cannot have enough people policing and ensuring that there's no breakdown of law and order. But then, like Malam Nuruddin said, refining it to ensure that the best comes out of it is the way to go. Nuruddin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, indeed. And of course, our viewers, thank you so much for following Daybreak from the beginning of the program, of course, until now. If you missed any part of the program, do well to follow us across all of our social platforms and catch up on our YouTube live stream for more news, documentaries, and other programmings that we have for you. Well, from me, it's have a lovely weekend, have a lovely day, and a happy new year in advance. I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
And I am Sumaya Abubakar. Thank you so much for staying with us. Please do stick around. At the top of the hour, Adeni Ajishafe would bring you 360 Sport. Do have a lovely day, and please stay safe.